thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day here to learn some more about Solarc and their offerings, primarily on the commercial space for the next hour. We're going to have people continue to come in and out. Um, the recording, it is being recorded, and you will be getting that afterwards sent to you directly. Also, in the handout section of your chat polls, there is a document that's been given to you by Solarc, so please just go in there and download it. You will see it takes a couple of minutes for it to download, but you'll see it in there. If you have any questions, please keep them to the end of the conversation, I believe, John. If you want to put them into the chat, he will be getting to them at the end, so he will run through everything there. We are GreenTech Renewables. I am part of the San Diego branch. My name is Thomas Dormer. I'm the energy storage manager here. We have over 100 locations all across the continental United States. We have 10 commercial locations now also, starting in 2023, which we'll be working closely with Solarc in the near future here on product offerings. Solarc and GreenTech have been partners for 5+ years, primarily on the residential side. So we are excited to move into the commercial space and really kind of grasp that and start assisting you guys on sales. Trying to see what else. We also now have a design team based out of the east of the United States. They are available 24/7. Turnaround times usually vary between 12 and 48 hours. On some commercial projects, it will take longer. There are recommendations on green button data that are needed, or design constraints, etc. So please utilize us to the best of your ability. Other than that, I just want to talk about Solarc and their commercial offering. So this is going to be the primary focus today. They're going to be talking about their 30K, 60K future projects, and then their L3 series battery, which is a Solarc battery for their commercial offerings. So with that, John, if you want to take over and enjoy the presentation, guys.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to dive right in. For those who need something else to do during the presentation, we did put the Solarc installer onboarding form in the meeting chat. So if you're not in our network and you'd like to be, go ahead and fill out that form. If you are in our network and you just need an update on your account or who your sales manager is, or to fill out a support ticket, just a reminder, you can go to our website, hit that contact us button. It goes to a web form where you can fill out a ticket for our sales team or a ticket for our engineering team. We have regional sales managers distributed throughout the United States, as well as Mexico and Puerto Rico, Latin America markets. You can use this for support ticketing, but also to get the attention of sales. You should know who your regional sales manager is if you're already in our network, and lean on them if you need a particular item expedited through the company. We also have a training portal. It's public access at this time, although it will be restricted to our installer network fairly soon in the future. So do fill out that partner with us form. In the training portal, we have individual certificate paths for residential installer, commercial installer. Those are just the brass tacks of installing and commissioning Solarc product. We also have designer pathways, which go further into just solar design and battery design, being like NABCEP type topics. So our residential installer training, it's not designed to be fluff. It's just, this is what you need to do to install, commission, connect the monitoring, connect, all these other odds and ends to our primary product, which is the Solarc 15K. There is a slight enhancement on, how to utilize our smaller inverter, the 12K. in light that the 15K is already on the market, so that you can kind of see some small project application, as well as an application note on external metering, revenue grade metering, providing your own CTs, things like that. The commercial trainings where you will find this presentation, leveraging storage as a commercial, as a competitive advantage, as well as installation and commissioning for the L3 series, and also an application note that we'll get to in a minute. Some background on Solarc: we were actually founded in 2013 and kind of experimented with off-grid, making off-grid easier, some kind of variety, just how to get people access to energy. That culminated in the launch of the Solarc 8K back in 2018. Now, this was the largest all-in-one hybrid inverter of its class. Really, the only comparisons on the market of that time would be like, say, the Victron Easy Solar, which was kind of too small, and the Outback Skybox, which came out a little bit later and didn't really make it. So Solarc has been the first to market with large form factor transformerless hybrid inverters. And since that time, we've had competitors rip off our product design, and we've also had actual competitors come into this space, such as Tesla with their Powerwall 3. That is a transformerless hybrid inverter. So Tesla has now entered where Solarc has always been. To us, that kind of validates what we've been doing, which is saying, hey, hybrid inverters are a cost-effective, easy residential project implementation strategy. And we're doing that exact same playbook in the commercial space at this time. So the reason why Solarc with commercial high voltage batteries and high voltage inverters makes so much sense is that it serves a market that really didn't have any solution prior to our commercial hardware. So we'll get into that, but effectively our commercial hardware is an expansion upon system architecture that's been field tested going back to 2018. We went with the 12K in 2019, and that's still on the market. So we're not, replacing our product line very quickly. So very long life to expect out of the 30K and 60K inverters. We moved our facility in 2021 and outgrew it. So we moved again in 2023. Now we have a 3,000 square foot campus just north of 300,000 square foot campus just north of Dallas, Texas. You can come on by and take a tour. So very large facility, and this is our commitment to the U.S. market and U.S. jobs. All of our tech support, our operations, engineering, all of that is run out of our headquarters. We do have just a handful of distributed positions, mostly in sales or training or product externally. But we are a brick and mortar company that you can walk into, kick the tires of. We welcome that in the industry. Honing in on upwards of 170 employees at this time. As far as our product line goes, the commercial inverters have been on the market for over a year now, and you can see that the 30K and the 60K are just iterations of that same theme that we've been supporting in the field since 2018. That's something you have to look out for because there's so much new product on the market today, and the problem with new product is not all the wrinkles have been smoothed out. And there's that market space known as resi-mercial, where you're doing some high-end residential installs and then smaller behind the meter commercial projects. Everything gets escalated with commercial. The stakes are much higher, the voltage is much higher, the failure points are more likely with series wiring to take out the entire circuit or system. And so you don't want stuff that is brand new product, brand new design, just from a risk management perspective. So it's nice to know that our 30K and 60K have been installed for over a year with multiple high voltage batteries. Uh, our battery is new as of this year. The indoor version started shipping in January. The outdoor version has just had its first systems commissioned. But we have Solar commercial inverter and battery systems being installed and commissioned on a weekly basis. Um, let's learn more about it. After this class, you can go to our training portal. Just go to the Solarc website, go under training, take the commercial installer certificate path to get oriented to the install and commissioning procedures. So fundamentally, it's on the market. It uses prismatic cells, which are about the highest quality that you can get for form factor. Great for rugged outdoor use. Um, there's built-in fire suppression. So there's built-in fire suppression into the battery module itself, as well as fire suppression built into the outdoor cabinet. These batteries are built specifically for the 30K and 60K. More on that to come. It's a very modular system, so it is possible, as we'll learn, to do very large uh, systems with this architecture. But what we're seeing in the field is most systems are 1 to 3 inverters with 1 to 3 battery cabinets. Where our system has some kind of unique competitive advantages, it is super easy to retrofit onto existing commercial solar. So, you want to add batteries to existing project sites, we can do that. It is really it's the best solution on the market for solar powered carports, for reasons we'll get into a minute, but it has to do with all the hardware and interconnection hardware that hybrid inverters include. Dramatically simplifies solar powered carports. So we'll talk about that strategy as well. So actually, one of those solar powered carports, as a case study, is Costco. They're using us to charge electric fleet vehicles. So that's one kind of commercial project already on the market. Another would be the San Francisco Public Works is using it to back up some of their infrastructure. So hybrid inverters, they do more than one thing. A solar only inverter is a one-way inverter. It takes the solar power and then it outputs it from DC to AC, one directional, and that's it. A hybrid inverter has traditionally been defined as a battery only inverter that can also charge from the grid and sell back to the grid. And that was kind of what, say, the Schneider XW was referred to pre-Solarc. With a Solarc hybrid inverter, that's where the industry vocabulary around hybrid inverters began to change, to say, well, hybrid inverters are now solar plus battery inverters. So they're more expensive because there's more stuff involved, but they ultimately save you money because there's less stuff extemporaneous to the inverter that you now have to do. So if you understand where the labor savings and the balance of system equipment savings come into play, then you'll really start to love hybrid inverter architecture. Otherwise, you might realize that you did a lot of planning up front, but the actual install kind of went smoothly because there's really not much you can throw at a hybrid inverter in terms of design surprises that it can't kind of accept and accommodate. The inverters, the commercial inverters, they have 8 solar ports with 4 MPPT. All of the MPPT are full sized, so you don't have to think, well, is this one larger than the others? So they're all full size. Um, well rated for amperage. They can accommodate bifacial solar paneling. The 30K goes up to a 550 volt design maximum. The 60K is 1,000 volt. No built-in transmitters at this time. You have to bring your own rapid shutdown. 2 battery ports, so that you have to think about your battery strategy with that. To get full battery power out of the inverter, you have to use both ports. So there's a little bit of with a single battery cabinet, a paralleling strategy. With 2 battery cabinets and 1 inverter, that is a very easy, worry-free project. Um, we're going to talk about this GIN port, but this is why the Solarc architecture is so great for AC coupling, is that additional interconnection point you can just land AC coupled solar directly onto. Many of our customers just choose to utilize the DC solar because it's there, and so that ends up being more cost effective. Commercial, the math might be a little bit different. If you want to use those SMA Sunny Tricores on a commercial rooftop, you can just put the Solarc next to the battery, SMA inverters on the rooftop, and have that be a very connect, at the inverter as your interconnection point. Um, if not using it for AC solar, you can use it for generators. You could use it for EV chargers. You could even put a sheddable sub panel onto that port. So there's a lot you can do with it. Um, you know, if you're doing a solar powered carport and you're not putting in EV chargers, you can say, well, now you have an interconnection point out there ready for the EV chargers. So that, when you look at the GIN port, if you have 3-phase generators, that's another thing where Solarc is going to be out ahead on. We have a 208 3-phase generator input or a 480 volt 3-phase generator input, depending on if you're using the 30K 208 or the 60K 480. So very easy to integrate generators, very easy to integrate AC solar. Other design possibilities are possible. The key here is with that GIN port, you can only use one thing. You can only do AC solar or a generator or an EV charger, smart load setup. But good degree of design flexibility there. You can always manage that stuff elsewhere in the system architecture. This just makes it easier. Micro grid controller, we come with time of use metering scheduler as well as a 3-season demand scheduler. So that accommodates 90% of electric rate structures in the US. And it can approximate some very advanced system behaviors such as California Net Metering 3.0. Um, No, and we do residential, Chris. Our Solarc 15K is our bread and butter. That gets all of these features that you see in front of you are included on the 15K. It just goes down to 6 solar ports and 3 MPPT instead of 8 solar ports with 4 MPPT. So this all-in-one architecture um, is great for residential. And the big differentiator between us and every other residential product on the market is we don't need an AC combiner panel. So you don't need that microgrid disconnect switch in addition to your inverter. So it would be like the in-phase smart switch or AC combiner, the Tesla gateway. All of that grid disconnect is built into the inverter, so it can be at while they're all listed for load side connections, UL 37 or UL 1741 CRD PCS listing. You can tie a larger inverter and ignore that 20% rule for load side connections because it's a listed power control system. Uh, what most of our installers do is they locate the inverter between the meter and the service panel and utilize the inverter's full grid pass through. So it'll pass through 180 amps continuous per inverter, and that's enough for most residential homes, especially given that the inverter will contribute its own power as well. Um, but for residential, we go up to we in California, we've done 800 amp service. It can do 1600 amp split phase service. So 400 amp service is super easy with a Solarc. So with residential, we kind of specialize in large whole home backup with or without a generator. Those features are sometimes run away with commercial. With commercial, just features that are standard or commonplace in residential vanish. So it's like, well, where did my time of use controller go? Where did my grid disconnect go? Where did my demand management go? All of this is still built into our commercial products, so that helps you make sure that your scope, especially if you're used to doing residential and you want to get into more commercial, this helps you maintain your scope. So feature sets that are not commonplace in the commercial market um, are more likely to be included in the box with the Solarc. Now, for additional features, if you have a super complicated commercial rate structure, or you really need to focus on demand management for the building, and you need more than a summer winter scheduler. If you need it for each month of the year, or even making adjustments intelligently based on hour of the day and battery state of charge, at that point you would want to use Energy Toolbase, and we are in process of completing Energy Toolbase integration with our product line with their Acumen EMS. So for the Energy Toolbase fans out there, where you can model Solarc in Energy Toolbase agnostically to date, but you'll be excited to know that our integration with their control system is coming soon. Looking at we have an indoor battery model and an outdoor battery model. Again, these are all high voltage, and these are for our commercial line. For the residential line, we believe strongly in battery partnership. Um, Battery partnership is a little bit of a complicated issue because homeowners don't really want it. They want one throat to choke, not two. And installers, they want things to be very straightforward. So again, learning two systems, not one, is complicated. Now, at the residential level, we feel like the advantage of battery choice is features. Certain markets need built-in battery heaters, others don't. Certain markets need built-in fire suppression, others don't. Certain markets need UL 9540A with the latest edition, others don't. Indoor versus outdoor, multiple price points, warranty differentiation. When you have battery choice, you're not locked into one feature set, one value, one design flexibility. Um, and furthermore, when it comes time to replace those batteries, because you've gone with a battery agnostic system from the get-go, the upgrade path is much more likely to be in place at the end of 10 years or 15 years, or whenever it comes time to replace the batteries. So we feel, even though the upfront value of battery choice to residential, um, all that product differentiation is worthwhile. With our commercial line, we're aiming more for simplicity. You look at the battery stack. There's no dip switches to program. The LCD screen for the batteries does not need programmed. You just kind of plug into the inverter. We have an installer app that makes this process easier, which you'll learn more about in our training portal. But fundamentally, with our commercial series, these are batteries made for our inverter. And yes, we manufacture in China, but it is the sole source, single stream process for our entire ESS, the batteries, the inverters. We're not piecemealing the system together with using one OEM for the inverter, another OEM for the battery, another OEM for the controller, and having to stitch it all together and sell you a commercial ESS, which are essentially what containerized solutions are today. The Solar commercial product line is more targeted at behind the meter commercial for a vertically integrated uniform platform made with kind of sole source manufacturing to increase the reliability a step further. So what I would recommend, and this is where like the AC coupling strategy comes into play, is if you want that domestic content writer for your projects, keep the solar project and the battery project separate. You're much more likely to get a domestic writer adder on a solar only project, and then use the AC coupling for the battery sides, because no matter what, the battery side of the project is going to kill the domestic content writer from the battery source of origin. So AC coupling might be a good strategy for that. We'll get to your question, Jerry, in a moment. So we have 208 volt products and we have 480 volt products. There's the 208 volt will work with. The question is, what about Delta high leg system? And that gets a little confusing because 480 volt Delta is not Delta high leg. Or with the 480 volt system, it'll work with Delta or Y. With 208 volt, when you go to Delta high leg, that's often a 240 volt three phase where one of the legs has a little bit higher voltage. And for that, you're going to need an external transformer. We only support 208 volt Y without an external transformer for the L3 series. The outdoor version, you could have up to 6 battery cabinets and 6 inverters per system. You can do much larger systems with the indoor series. With the indoor, you can go up to 10 inverters and up to 16 battery cabinets per inverter. So with the indoor series, you can do a 600 kilowatt, almost 10 megawatt hour ESS system. Whereas we constrain the outdoor series design to 6 inverters and 6 battery cabinets per inverter, up to a total of 36 battery cabinets. And the reason for that is by the time you get into a larger project design for what, for behind the meter commercial, at that point, you're probably bringing your own battery room, whether or not it's an outdoor room exterior to the building with its own climate control or a room that's literally inside the building. Either way, at scale, you'll want to get the more stripped down basic server rack structure without all the climate control that's provided at a cabinet level. But if the commercial project is small, up to 6 inverters, at that point, it's buy our outdoor model, because that's going to be way more cost effective than putting a unsightly containerized solution for something that's not quite a containerized solution project. So the takeaway here is up to 6 inverters, up to 6 battery cabinets per inverter in an outdoor environment. Go ahead and specify our outdoor system. If you need anything larger than that, we have a lower price point indoor option where you basically bring your own battery room. Let's see. There's a question about Kona locations. I know it's a CED location question, but we are looking at service center locations in Hawaii. Probably starting with Puerto Rico first, but it is on our roadmap for customer success in Solar. On our website, we have a variety of information. The data sheets and the manuals are really where you'll want to go. I want to point out that we're going to talk a little bit about seismic. This is an important note for California in particular. If you're planning any L3 series projects right now, make sure you're talking to those California regional sales managers, because the seismic bracing is not distributed. It's ordered directly from Solarc, and so you'll want to plan on that. So there are seismic bracing options for indoor and outdoor, needed to get through permitting in some jurisdictions. And also for seismic stamping and foundational stamping, we have a solution for that we'll talk about in a minute. We try and put very clear and accurate and transparent information on our data sheets. So I think you'll find they have more information than what you'll find in industry. Things like being straightforward about when we say the cycle or capacity ratings, that they're called out for. These, when I say it's a battery with this capacity, just like a solar panel, that is at a standard test condition. So, when you operate significantly outside that standard test condition, there is an amount of derating that occurs. But we've tried to use our install experience to say, high altitude environments are okay, but you need to derate by 80%, or derate by 20%, use 80%. And we'll talk about warranty terms and conditions in a minute. As far as our website, we have we have the manuals, we have the data sheets on a commercial product page. We also have an overview, which is a little one pager, as well as a brochure, which is a multi-page brochure. So if you're doing commercial sales and you want some print collateral on our products, it could be as simple as going to our website, downloading the PDFs, and sending them over to your print shop. So, depending on your schedule and urgency, just know that those resources are available. The indoor series, it's designed for a controlled room. It's not designed just to be hanging out in an electrical room. It's a authorized person, authorized access only room. Conductors come out the side. You may or may not need a combining strategy depending on your configuration. If you do, the good news is now you're in high voltage. So high voltage, low amperage. There's a lot of solar combining products out there that can be utilized in this space. But this combiner architecture is not included in the indoor model. We do include combiner architecture in the outdoor model. So again, restricting that up to 6 inverters, up to per 6 battery cabinets per inverter. That's included in this combiner architecture. In our training portal, under our commercial installer pathway, we have a very detailed application note on battery combining that you can follow, or even provide to your inspector if needed. The outdoor system can be hoisted in place. It can be forklifted in place. The outdoor system comes with an air conditioning unit, and this is one gotcha, is the air conditioning unit works with 208 or 240, but not 277. So more on that in a minute. When installing the outdoor version, it is a little bit more complicated than the indoor version. The indoor version is just put the battery modules in a rack, put a bunch of cables where in the only position that they can go into, and turn the system on. With the outdoor system, you have to run power out to the auxiliary power to power that air conditioner unit and the cabinet environmental controls like the smoke and heat detector. And more on this for 480, for 208, it's very, you just have to plan on running some auxiliary power from the facility. For 480, it requires an additional transformer. More on that in a minute. So as you can see with our outdoor solution, at the bottom of the outdoor cabinet, we include a bus bar for combining up to 3 battery cabinets together, and that would go on inverter battery port 1, and then 3 more cabinets would go on battery port 2, and that would get you up to 6 battery cabinets per inverter. You transition out this little kind of this knockout box that comes off the side of the unit, so nothing terribly fancy. Um, the warranty um, is there's let's see, the warranty for the indoor series has been updated to the product manual. For the outdoor series warranty, it's a separate document. Um, you can go and read through the warranty. Fundamentally, there's nothing different between the outdoor series and the indoor series in terms of the warranties. It's a 10-year warranty. Um, defined operating conditions. One thing I'd say about our warranty compared to others is that that includes the battery management system, and it also includes the fire suppression system. This is something you have to look out for. But like, say, the fire suppression system of some of our competitors, they'll give you a 10-year ESS warranty, but the fire suppression is only a 1-year warranty. So it's like, well, do you really want to go into each battery module and open up each battery module once a year and replace the fire suppression system? Well, no. But if you want to get rid of the sprinkler requirement for NFPA 855 by providing a listed built-in fire suppression system, you it can't have a 1-year warranty. So anyway, ours is a 10-year warranty. You don't have to worry about stuff like that. Um, and by and large, is that's because our commercial product manager, used to be a solar installer, so he has a little bit of industry know-how. There's additional fire suppression built into the outdoor cabinet. The details of the fire suppression system are a little bit more fleshed out in our commercial in the outdoor HVR series. For the 60K inverter, um, if you need to power the environmental controls of the outdoor cabinet, we do have a transformer that is designed and built to fit inside the cabinet. So it takes up a good amount of space. And by the time you get to, like, I'd say um, 4 cabinets or more, you probably want to pad mount your own transformer and not go with the individual per cabinet option, just because of a cost perspective. But if you're doing a 1 outdoor cabinet, 2 outdoor cabinet, 3 outdoor cabinet design, this is another thing you want to talk to your regional sales manager about, because this is not in distribution. The batteries are made by us. Yeah, so it's the same, like everything else in industry, we use OEM partners. One difference between Solarc and others is we do a sole source OEM partnership for our entire product line. So that's batteries and inverters. So it's not different, global manufacturing conglomerates piecing together multiple parts of disparate parts of different systems. We've worked with our OEM partner in China for since 2018. It's, well, what makes a U.S. manufacturer? It's, well, your volume, you know how well you own the real estate footage at the OEM facility. Are they using the same equipment, real estate, and personnel to make a variety of products, or just your own? So it's really the same issues of, well, what makes a solar module manufacturer versus a cell manufacturer? Um, and so there, it's a conversation that installers understand a little bit more than designers or end users. And while the batteries are not made in the USA, and I don't want to say that we're insensitive to domestic manufacturing. Pretty much like any manufacturer in the space right now, we are planning onshoring of manufacturing and trying to prioritize what products that applies to. But practically, if you're trying to install commercial batteries in this space for the next couple of years, it's still going to be, just not going after the domestic content writer and utilizing what's out there. And the confidence that you have with Solarc that you're simply not going to get with our competitors is that this is a sole source product where Solarc is um, utilizing one OEM for batteries, inverters, this transformer unit, the air conditioner that comes with the unit, and so you don't get a bunch of mismatched products. You get something that you can just turn the power switch and press on. Chris, it's all made in China right now. The inverters and the batteries. For engineering stamps, what we have is a seismic foundational stamp and a partner with Vector Engineering. They are a structural engineering company licensed for the West Coast. So they are willing to stamp up and down the coastline. So we can give you stamped engineering drawings, foundational drawings at no cost. If you want to deviate from the plan set, do deeper foundations, put the cabinets closer together, things like that. Well, then you'll need to come up with your own plan set and just have confidence in knowing we can refer you to a structural engineering firm that's already trained up in our product and can crank out those plan sets for you economically and quickly. As far as our monitoring platform, we have moved this to US-based servers with internally owned code base, and that is what MySolarc is. So we've migrated everyone from PowerView onto MySolarc. The only new feature into MySolarc currently is the grid report. So some utilities require a printed out grid report settings for commissioning, and that can be done very, very easily within MySolarc. But more to come on that, and that is compliant with all the CSIP security compliance of the modern era. Yeah, and I mean the thing is about manufacturing in China is that a global manufacturing conglomerate in China does not care about a particular customer in a particular region around the world. We all have slightly different power grids and power requirements, but then there's also a more basic, well, what constitutes quality power for grid tied or backup that customers in high end residential and commercial are less tolerant of power quality than if you're living off grid in the sticks in Alaska or something like that. Um, Even when it comes down to surprises like LED lights using 20% less power than CFLs, well, you're producing the same light for 80% less power, 20% of the power, and that's great. But then, your tiny power fluctuations are more likely to cause things like voltage flickering. And, the last thing you want to do with residential ESS project or a commercial ESS project is interconnect a system, turn it on, and all of a sudden the customer's power quality is worse rather than better because you're now constraining it. It's very hard to deliver quality backup power, particularly with transformerless inverters, because they're the newest technology. They're lower cost than transformer-based inverters. They're more energy efficient than transformer-based inverters. But there is a wide range of quality and stuff left to do that you don't get if you just take any product off the shelf, shipped from China, and plug it in. So it is a collaborative relationship. You need U.S. presence to um, get product performance to what customers expect. And then, what's great about the IRA is it does provide framework to one way or another provide a longer term transition to U.S. manufacturing. So, well, that conversation um, grows and grows each day within the industry as a whole. Getting into kind of an application discussion. Um, a longer version of this is available on our training portal, but let's do the quick version and then get into some Q&A. The commercial storage market is growing and growing. Historically, the commercial rooftop market segment got left behind. It actually was the largest market segment in 2007 and 2008. But when the tax credit got uncapped, the utility scale market took all the investment in commercial solar, and commercial solar never had net metering like residential solar did. So the variable rate structures for commercial solar not having access to net metering and all the hedge fund investment going into utility scale, it's caused a lull or a lag in the commercial rooftop solar market fell far behind residential market segment, utility scale market segment. Well, now with batteries, it turns all of the economics upside down. What used to be a terrible rate structure for solar only is now a tremendous rate structure for solar plus batteries. And that's causing a slingshot effect where commercial solar is still the smallest market segment out of the big three, but it's also the fastest growing, or at the very least, there are subsections of commercial solar, such as commercial backup, that have never really existed prior to this year. And so, since they are just now getting off the market, those little subdivisions are growing in triple digit growth rates. So, if you want your business to grow, uh, in 2024, 2025, 2026, commercial solar and commercial storage is a great way to do it. Um, Michael's saying we've gotten situations where customers' cheap inverters are causing power issues for neighboring properties. And yeah, I would want to get into that with trying to save $1,000 or $2,000 on a commercial inverter and not having any kind of support presence in the U.S. to um, support you through that issue. Looking at how commercial storage is used, we have energy arbitrage, peak shaving, demand response, and backup power. Energy arbitrage is the largest one. It's very simple. You have a high electric rate during the day and a low electric rate at night, and Solar can do that with its time of use controller, seasonal controller. So that's easy to do with out of the box functionality. Sizing, little bit of an issue, but what's exciting about this is you don't have to do 100%. You can do 20% or 30%. More on that to come. You can actually look at electric bills and get a better understanding of if it's a good opportunity or not. One thing that I look at is the time of use rate structure meaningful? So if I have a energy rate of 10 cents and my peak rate is 14 cents and my off peak rate is 7 cents, that's not a big differential. It's not enough to get me excited. It's not enough to move a project. But if you have a time of use rate structure that is meaningful, that means your peak versus off peak rates are substantially different from each other. That's where it starts to become much more interesting. Energy Toolbase is a tool you can use to accurately model this with very detailed economics. And even if you're not using their controller, you can use their software to model it. So that is what I would recommend using for modeling commercial economics. There's another aspect called peak shaving, and peak shaving used to be called demand response or demand management. Peak shaving is a better term where you have a demand charge on the electric bill and you're shaving off just peak demand regardless of time of day. Um, so that can be you can look at a demand charge bill, and if half the bill is demand charges or more, then that's a pretty strong indicator that it's a good project. So you can just look at a commercial bill, look at their demand charge line item, and kind of get a sense of if the project's going to make or not. Um, what's really interesting about demand charges is they have this reverse economies of scale where actually the smaller projects are more cost effective than the bigger projects, because as you can see in this picture, any further down for demand management, you're starting to get into base load, and you'd have to have a battery that's 10 times the size to go the same amount of distance on bill reduction. So this results in a very, solar can sometimes accentuate these peaks, although you'd have to be in a very sunny climate like California for this strategy to be relied upon. But the takeaway here is that unlike solar, where you have a strategy where you have to offset 100% of the bill or you have to cover the entirety of the rooftop, um, a small commercial project can be very low cost in terms of, hey, the customer can actually write a check for it and buy it. But it can also be very easy to install because you're not getting into, really backup power applications or whole building backup application. Um, and just by connecting it and lowering the demand charges, that's a low cost to buy, easy to install project. And so that might look like just one battery cabinet and one inverter. Um, and I would think about this, especially if your clients have multiple site locations, to just say, well, let's put one inverter and one battery cabinet on all of your locations. We're going to take care of that demand charge as best as the equipment optimally can, and then we'll collect data for a further expansion site down the road. Because if you've already planted your flag on site, you're going to win that expansion project, and you've delivered them a low cost effective project to begin with. So, you've set a path forward to site expansion. Another thing that's really cool about the Solar battery and battery inverter for the commercial is that if you add another inverter, you add another battery cabinet, they're not shared between the inverters and between the battery cabinets. And that allows you to expand at year one and then expand at year two and kind of start growing commercial sites as costs come down and your success and track record is proven. Now, by the time you look at the building demand profile and you want to do building backup, so I would say with building backup with one inverter and one battery cabinet, find anything small on site that needs backup, a refrigerator system, the building lights or computer system, and say, look, when the power goes out, you want to keep these things powered up just so that you can enter and exit the property well or keep bare business functionality operating and avoid that revenue loss. But instead of doing whole building backup, doing it with just a subdivision keeps the economics very good. By the time you get into two inverters and two battery cabinets, you might as well start looking at the entire load profile and consider whole building backup. Because generally by the time you're either demand managing peak use or peak demand, and let's just call that a third of the building. By the time you get to offsetting all of the building's demand, that's equivalent to saying, well, the same system could back up the whole building for an hour or two, why not just take a whole building backup approach at that point? So, the kind of recommended approaches are one or two inverters for device specific backup and demand management, and then maybe a couple of more inverters for whole building backup. The pass throughs are cumulative. So when I'm looking at a commercial panel board, I say, oh, that's a 400 amp panel. Well, I'll need at least two Solarcs, if not three. Oh, that's a 600 amp panel. I'll need at least three Solarcs, if not four. Generally, at this point, you get into demand analysis, so you can kind of more finely hone in on what's the right amount of grid pass through and backup capability. But fundamentally, when you're looking at these load centers and panel boards, you can subdivide up systems. So while with 10 Solarc inverters, that'll pass through 1,800 amps of three-phase power, and that'll be good enough for most 2,000 amp panel boards. If you got into say a 3,000 amp panel board or a 4,000 amp, load bank, you could just back up individual groupings off of that load center, and do as large of a system you want that way. You could even do a hybrid where you have a large project and containerized systems make sense, but containerized systems don't provide seamless transfer. So you could have a smaller Solarc system on a commercial industrial site to facilitate the seamless transfer of specific devices and applications, and then you can have the larger 10 megawatt hour plus system containerized solution, providing 1 minute transfer times or longer for the entire facility. A lot of creativity you can do. So the question: can the inverter work with microgrid controllers like Agito? We like Agito, and we do have an integrator forum and partnership program where we provide right access to Modbus controllers. So we're not closed to those types of partnerships. I think the first one out of the gate is Energy Toolbase. But we do work, we're not opposed to working with a Agito. I think we've worked a little bit with STEM and Octopus, but I don't know the status of those projects. So on a final note, demand charges, they're very interesting. We have an audience from all over the country here, and you can have a commercial market even if your region is not known for residential solar. So, you while yes, you get good demand structures in California in the East Coast as well, you can get demand structures in rural areas and peninsulas and mountainous areas. So a wide variety. So you may get to know your commercial rate structures and what options are available. Last but the last application is DERMS response. This is basically the same thing as what a commercial facility wants to do, but there are utility. These are utility driven programs with utility driven incentives. This is like what's coming after net metering. When net metering goes away, you will see some utilities develop rate structures or commercial incentives where they can take over use of your batteries and pay you money for that. Solarc has this implemented on the East Coast with the Connected Solutions program residentially, but we are making sure that program is being executed 100% before expanding to other DERMS response. So our hardware is rated for DERMS response with all the CSIP and all that, all the listings we need for DERMS we have. As far as going from getting the hardware ready to implementing it on the software side, we've only implemented Connected Solutions, so you'd have to find a third-party platform. Another good reason to get to know your regional sales manager and say, hey, this DERMS response program is important. When you expand beyond Connected Solutions, put this on the list. Um, so these are opportunities, say on the East Coast with residential connected solutions. It's a great deal. You can go and sell very expensive systems and have them basically sell like net metered systems where the load payments are roughly equivalent to the savings of the system, giving you a cash flow positive experience and backup power. Yeah, it's pretty sick. Um, Backup power, this is the new market. No one has done this in the past because the products don't exist. Well, now they do with Solar. We're capable of doing whole building backup, and we have some customers where the projects sell where they don't need to deliver a whole building backup, and that's fine. But what I would say with building backup power, the payback assumptions move further out. There's a whole new category of businesses that say, I don't really care if it's a 10-year payback or a 12-year payback. I want backup power, and this is the solution for it. Um, that would be as opposed to non-battery systems, which might need a 5-year payback or even sooner to come out of the ground. So whole building backup, while you don't want to charge into it too quickly, it does grow the market and allow you to sell longer payback periods. And so basically, if you can identify a need for backup power on site and pair it with a meaningful peak versus off peak rate structure, then you have a market. And that market is going to be around for the years to come with great, growth rates. So with that, I'm happy to do Q&A. We do have a training portal with course recordings and handouts. We do have a commercial product page for manuals and more product information, as well as a very robust residential offering. Going straight into the Q&A, smart load availability. Um, I really don't want to say because I'm not involved in that project, and I really at this time, if I told you a date, it would be so soft of a date that it wouldn't be valuable. We do have some load management discussion in our training portal. Um, I really think that device specific load control and thermostat control is where the market's headed on that. Um, electric vehicle charging applications. Honestly, our CNI product manager knows more about EV charging applications than I do. The only issues I've seen with EV charging is sometimes like a generator, they might have a neutral to ground bond that needs to be, carefully considered in the design. Otherwise, it's how complicated of your EV tie-in do you want to make it? If it's really just, hey, you want to make sure that the solar battery system can charge the EVs, that's really easy. Now you want to start doing bi-directional charging, you have to start thinking about, well, which is the primary inverter providing the signal, forming the signal, and which systems are following the signal. And that's going to be kind of EV charger specific, and that gets into, what is your interconnection strategy? What I would say with the Solar feature set as it stands now with EV chargers, either you're connecting them to the load side, at which point you're really just backing up the EVs and not really providing additional EV benefit. But then if the EV charger system has like a demand management function, then that fits in really well because it's following the Solar signal. You could also do the reverse. If you have an EV charging signal, you can program the Solar converters to just do demand management and kind of approach the design from the opposite end. Now, if you want the Solars to be the leaders, but you want your EV chargers to sell back to the building, there's different design scenarios on, well, is that sell back to the grid or sell back to the building during a power outage? Selling back to the grid is really easy. Selling back to the building during a power outage, you'll fundamentally have to resolve, now you have two inverters trying to form the grid. One of them has to be taken into account. Right now, that stuff is on a case by case basis, depending on what you want out of your EV charging system. So, uh, great thing about this market is the design aspect is still valuable, whereas batteryless solar, the role of the designer was getting a little underwhelming in the simplicity involved. So with that, that's the end of the program. We're a little bit over time. You've been a great audience. I think I've gotten through all the chat Q&A. Multi-tenant commercial tenants no longer being good candidates for solar, and now great candidates for ESS. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, to some extent, 200 amp service on down. You're still on energy rate structures for the most part. That 400 amp service, you go on to demand charge. Commercial customers in the 400 amp to 2000 amp service panels, the Solark really shines. But we do have, 200 amp is very simple as well. Power factor programming is adjustable within the Solark. A lot of that stuff you'll cover in our training portal, where we just walk you through all the system settings. So we do have technical sales engineers or field application engineers embedded on our sales team. So if you're planning CNI projects and you do have design questions, you can send it to the sales team for a response. They'll route it through our field application engineers for kind of pre-sales questions. Post-sales is really the intent for our technical support. Technical support runs, I think, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So it's kind of there to accommodate East Coast and West Coast time. We do have technical support on Saturdays and Sundays as well, so that if you're out there working on a Sunday, we might not have the entire team there, but we can at least relay some information or help get your support issue underway when we open back up on Monday. So yeah, we've been all around the world in this presentation, but you'll still have, an army of employees just north of Dallas, Texas, here to support you with the Solark platform. You've been a great audience, and thank you for your attention.